Colorado and Deion Sanders have been under fire by former players, but the head coach isn't letting it bother him.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Bohr, but today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the business. We'll be talking about Cree Thomas's ascension from underused or I guess backup at Notre Dame to Colorado's #1 corner. We're going to talk about Boo Carter's new role, but first, we're going to start off with the shade talk because there has been shade thrown at Colorado. If you guys remember, Deion Sanders, Colorado were repeatedly attacked by former players like Jordan Seaton, London Merritt, Ryan Staub, and I don't think the guys meant it as attacks. And if they didn't, I just feel like they are younger kids that sort of lack a self-awareness in a way, because it's like, if you are going to compliment your coaches, that's fine, right? There's a reason they left and there's a reason they all ended up where they ended up. But it's one thing to be like, yeah, I feel like I'm being developed a lot here. But when you compare it, when you go out of your way to compare it to your former program, I think that sets up a narrative or sets up sort of a discourse about problems in Colorado, right? Whether or not they meant it, I don't know. But Coach Prime was asked about it when he spoke to the media this week, and he said, quote, "Some of our past players have been commenting on us, which is cool with me. We're not going to be provoked or comment back or to say anything ignorant. I wish those guys the best. One thing I could comfortably say, some people came here that you didn't know of, and when you left, they had a name. I'm proud of that. I'm proud that they were able to earn more than they earned here, that they can help their friends, family, as well as loved ones, and can help themselves. I'm happy with that. We're still in a good relationship with quite a few. But you've got to understand that some young men play the victim. That's not the case. We try to treat everybody here with the utmost respect and professionalism. I hope we've done just that, as well as treating you, the media, in the same way. But we will not engage in back and forth with any former players. Our aim is to really please, support, encourage, motivate, and really prepare our men that we have on campus for the next phases of their life." And so, listen, I think this is the perfect way to address this, because I think people wanted it to get messy, right? I think it'd just be easy for Deion Sanders to be like, oh, yeah, well, Jordan Seaton left because he was offered millions. Or, oh, yeah, Ryan Staub left because he was never the starter. Or, oh, London Merritt left to get money, right? That's easy, right? But I think he understands the game that is currently sort of plaguing college football. And there's a reason he told his current players, like, hey, don't talk about your former schools, right? Nothing good comes out of it. And I totally agree, right? It's like talking about, I guess, a old friend that you're no longer friends with, or an ex partner. It's like, well, what am I going to gain by talking about them, right? If I talk to them, to other people, it's most likely not going to be positive, right? So it's like, it's better to just move on, not bring it up anymore. I think the hard part about this scenario for Colorado is everything that happens at Colorado is magnified times 100. And so when a player like Jordan Seaton goes to LSU, and obviously we had heard the rumors and the murmurs that he was being offered millions to leave, when he goes and then kind of throws the coaching under the bus over at Colorado, I mean, you know what's going to come out of that, right? And that's why I'm a little shocked that we saw some of the comments we did, just because I think as media members, when you ask a question like, how does this school compare to your previous, you're basically leading a player into an answer that is going to either, one, put them in an uncomfortable spot about their new school, or two, it's going to put them in a spot to where they have to degrade their former school, right? Because it's like, oh, Kevin, how did you feel about your former job as opposed to this one? It's like, well, I left my former job for a reason, for this job, right? So, like, obviously, I don't know. I don't love that sort of questioning. I feel like it's very leading at times, and quite frankly, it's one of those things where you have to be able to be mature about it. You have to be able to just sort of move on from it. And so I think Deion Sanders handled this perfectly. I think he sent a clear message to his players too, like, hey, there's no point in talking about it, because it's not going to look good, right? Because I think the one part people are forgetting is, say, like, let's think of a transfer. We'll go with Boo Carter from Tennessee, specifically Tennessee, because I think Tennessee has a very sensitive and hyper aggressive fan base, as we saw when he committed, right? They were constantly in my comments, they were constantly in his comments and just like attacking him. And I don't think Boo Carter would be like, yeah, I think my time in Knoxville went perfectly, just as planned, just as I drew it up. But I do think that there was some positives. But when you leave, like if you were to ask Boo Carter, like, hey, what's the difference between Colorado and Tennessee? And he's like, you know what? I'm just being coached better, blah, blah, blah. Like if he said that, emphasis on if, or on emphasis on whatever like hypothetical he could say, Tennessee fans would blow it up. The sports media world would take that and run with it because it's like, oh, former our current Colorado player bashes Tennessee or bashes SEC program. And it's like, okay, he's not bashing it. He's answering the question. So it's a very misleading, I think a very leading question. I'm happy that Deion Sanders is able to sort of show his players now, like, hey, this is how we handle things, right? We don't talk about the past, right? We don't use this as an opportunity to shoot down other programs, shoot down other people. But not everybody does that. And so very disappointing, I would say, from the other players' perspectives, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. When we come back, we're going to talk about Boo Carter because Coach Prime, he hinted at a little bit of a role change. Let's discuss.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes. I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
We are also doing this really cool thing over at Locked On called the Everydayer Club, where you could sign up, you get free or ad-free episodes, so you can listen to these episodes on your walk in the morning, you're walking the dog, you're working out. You can listen to them then. I'm going to have some really cool guests come on the show, so you'll hear even more guest speakers, some players, some coaches. It's going to be pretty exciting, I would say. You also get access to a Discord where you could hit me up and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, what have you heard about this? Because, for instance, Von Bell, I knew that was happening. Told you guys in the Discord well before it was announced that it was happening. I also knew that I was going to have Brendan Marion on the show, obviously. I planned it, right? I scheduled it. So I went into the Discord. I was like, hey, Brendan Marion's coming on the show. Any questions you guys want me to ask him? So that way you guys can learn more. Maybe I'm not thinking about a certain topic, right? So the Everydayer Club, it really connects us. And I really think it takes this show to another level because sometimes I feel like we as fans don't always think on the same page. So maybe someone else has a great question that I didn't think of, or vice versa. Or maybe you just want to get some clarity on a situation. So join the Everydayer Club. Go to lockedonbuffs.supercast.com and sign up. Let's talk Boo Carter. Obviously, one of the more polarizing players in the Colorado stratosphere for the past, I would say, 3 years, I guess. Listen, Boo Carter was a recruit that I thought Colorado was going to get. He ends up staying at Tennessee, and then all of a sudden, he sort of goes to Tennessee and he shines. It's like, okay, great. Like, I love that for him. But Boo Carter also reportedly wanted to play both ways at Tennessee, and that didn't always happen. He was a weapon for them in special teams, but he didn't get to play both ways. And so Colorado is sort of the only program that at least I'm aware of right now that has made both ways work, right? Travis Hunter, this guy right here, he won the Heisman playing both ways, right? He was a lockdown corner. He was a number one receiver. And I don't know if we'll ever see that again, but Boo Carter does have that versatility. And when speaking to the media this week, Coach Prime kind of hinted at the fact that, like, we could be seeing Boo Carter all over the place. Coach Prime said, and I quote, "We had a candid conversation on the field last week about playing multiple positions. Boo is arguably the best athlete on the team. He can play safety. He can play corner, slot, return kicks as well, and do multiple things." He said, "I put him at corner," which is outside corner, because he's been playing a lot of nickel and safety, because I wanted to see him do his thing. I want to see him play there because in history, I don't see them say a lot of, I don't see them say a slot slot chosen in the first round, such and such, aka saying like slot corners don't get picked in the first round. I don't see that. So I want him to have a chance to exhaust himself, not only at the corner position, the slot position, as well as safety. He could do many things, and I want him to do all things that he's capable of so that his draft wealth accelerates. He's that kind of kid. So, I mean, Boo Carter, they kind of hinted at him, I think, playing running back at one point. I don't think we're going to see him in the running back room. But there has been a lot of praise about Boo Carter, right? Coach Kevin Mathis said he's probably one of the most talented guys I've ever coached besides Travis. Just the things he does on the football field, some of the movements he makes, the plays he makes, and his knowledge of understanding is just, I mean, top tier, right? So the thing about Boo Carter, and when I had Eric Kane on, the host of Locked On Vols, he pretty much said it comes down to, can Boo Carter be his best on and off the field, specifically off the field, because Boo Carter off the field is sort of what derailed Boo Carter on the field at Tennessee. And you can look into what happened, right? He sort of had some issues there. I think that's the past. I think he's grown from that. But if Colorado can get the best version of Boo Carter, they very well may have, I don't want to say the next Travis Hunter, because I don't really think they're going to use him both ways. I feel like that gets complicated. If someone's not a full-time two-way player, then I think it just makes their usage on offense either risky or predictable, because it's like, oh, this guy's on the field, so he's going to get the ball, right? But I do think we're going to see him move all over the defense. And, I mean, it's really hard to tell based on clips who is standing outside of Cree Thomas. But I don't know if Colorado's really gotten the, how do I put this, the strong showing from certain transfer corners that they were hoping. Now, there's still a lot of time to be played. There's still a lot of battles to be won and battles to be had, right? So like a guy like Justin Eaglin, Paul Amodia, Jason Stokes from Utah, like all these guys still have plenty of opportunities to work their way into a starting role. But clearly Coach Prime is seeing something in Boo Carter where he's so versatile, where it's like, hey, I need this guy in position to where he's on the field more. He's making big plays. He's shutting down one side of the field, because when Colorado, and I think they really truly did have a good pass rush in 2024. They obviously led the Big 12 in sacks, but I think the one thing that helped them was the fact that they had an elite secondary, right? Travis Hunter locked down one side of the field, and then Preston Hodge and DJ McKinney were good enough to sort of, I guess, clamp receivers at times. And so you just really, as a quarterback, like had to hold on to the football longer than expected. And then when you hold on to the football longer than expected, well, guess what? That leads to sacks. And so I think Coach Prime is still looking for that right combination of corners, that right combination of secondary players to sort of get in the mix. Now, do I think that this means the secondary battle is far from, or is over? No, I don't. I think it's far from it. I think Boo Carter is just someone that they want to accentuate. They want to highlight. They want to feature on this defense. But some other names that I would look out for in the corner spots, I said Jason Stokes earlier, 6'2", transfer from Utah. He was a freshman, didn't play a ton at Utah, but I mean, I saw a lot of videos with Coach Prime working with him. I think he's a very high potential kind of guy. Paul Amodia from Lamar was an all-conference player. You also have Emery Floyd from App State. He's a veteran, right? So he could come in and probably play a lot of snaps and be productive right away. Cree Thomas is, and I'll get to in a little bit, the guy. Justin Eaglin, he played a lot at James Madison, right? He was on a playoff team, picked off Dante Moore in the playoff. So obviously there's a lot of talent all over this team. It's just a matter of finding the right guys, the right fixes. And so I really like the idea of getting Boo Carter moving all over the field. I would like to see him play on offense just because I want to see if Colorado can recreate that Travis Hunter stuff. But if it's not going to be like a full-time thing, then I also don't know if it's worth it. But Colorado brought in some versatility this offseason, and it's a long time coming. I thought they'd get Boo Carter as a recruit. Then I thought they'd get him when he was expected to leave Tennessee after his freshman year. Thought they'd get him before this past season, right? Or after his freshman year. And I thought they'd get him before this past season. But it finally happened, and I'm fully expecting huge things out of Boo Carter. When we come back, Coach Prime did not mince words when naming the number one corner for the Buffs. Let's talk about it. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. The one position you had to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on you and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed. according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now, you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You could buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I could actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Future and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk. Is not appropriate for everyone. Every event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Let's talk Cree Thomas. When I did my prediction for the starting defensive side of the ball, I had Cree Thomas in there simply because through the first two practices, I think he had 5 interceptions, or like 4 interceptions. And then, lo and behold, Coach Brian talks about him, and he says, that guy, when asked about him, he said, Cree is the number one guy right now. He's that guy. I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. And so I think this is exactly what I expected. Cree Thomas comes from a program where he was sitting behind Leonard Moore, which is one of the best corners in college football. Will probably be a top 2-round pick this offseason. And he was a former blue chipper, right? He was a guy that comes from a very good state of football in Arizona, was a 4-star recruit, 3-star, high 3-star, low 4-star, depending on where you look. Had offers from Notre Dame, Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Boston College, all these schools, and was just really good. And I just don't think he got the full opportunity to prove himself as a freshman. And I mean, it's not shocking. Notre Dame was a borderline playoff team, and I don't think they really needed a true freshman at corner because they had so many good players at corner already. And so Cree Thomas comes to a Colorado secondary where you had DJ McKinney, you had Preston Hodge, and you had sort of like a hodgepodge of other guys, Teion Parks, Tyrekus Davis, where I don't think any of them really worked out the way that we were expecting and or hoping. And so Cree Thomas is coming in as a guy who's aggressive, he's big, he's long, and he's physical. He doesn't shy away, right? We saw him get into a little scuffle in one of the earlier practices. Like that shows me like he's willing to go to war, and he's got a ball hawk ability. Like he is simply in the right place at the right time, seemingly all the time. And so for him to sort of be that number one corner, I mean, that makes Colorado's life a little bit easier because like it's now they just have to figure out who the other one is. And if Boo Carter is the other corner, then they just have to figure out who their nickel corner is. And I think that's a lot easier than finding 2 outside corners. But I'm looking at this group of corners, and like I said, you have Cree Thomas, you have RJ Johnson, who I forgot to mention earlier, Jason Stokes from Utah, you have Makari Vickers, Emery Floyd, Justin Eaglin, Boo Carter. You could play a lot of college football. And if Cree Thomas is already locked up one spot, Boo Carter is going to be at the other. I mean, you're getting to a point where you don't have to stress out as much, I would say. And so I think if you're Coach Prime, you have to love that Cree Thomas has stepped up. We'll see our first taste of Cree this weekend. Excuse me, in the spring game, because I think people are going to want to see Julian Lewis air it out. They're going to want to see Danny Scudero, Cam Perry, and all those boys running routes. And we want to see how Cree Thomas can hold up against what looks to be one of the best wide receiver corps in the Big 12. So I'm truly excited. I look like I'm 1 for 1 on predictions already, which is exciting because, I mean, with a team that changes as much as Colorado with like 50, 60 new players, it is difficult to sort of map out what's going to happen. But it's one of those things where if you're Colorado, you have to be able to find the next guy up, right? You have to be able to find guys who could play right away. And even if that's a guy who didn't play a lot last year, may the best man rise to the top, and let's ride with those guys. I think there's times last year where Colorado was too loyal to certain players, and I really hope that this year they prioritize just playing the best players at all times. So excited to see what Cree Thomas brings to the table. Hope all of you have a great and safe day. I'm Kevin Bohr, host of Locked On Buffs. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, because tomorrow we're going to have Jay Smith on the show. We're going to be talking about some really fun things. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I'm Kevin Bohr. This has been Locked On Buffs.